but turning wet and windy across northwestern Scotland later through the night. Many places holding up tonight and frost-free, but across the far southeast, that's where we'll see a touch of frost to start Monday morning. Now, through Monday morning, it's a cloudy picture across much of Scotland, some heavy spells of rain and strong winds across the far west. A similar picture across Northern Ireland. We'll see spells of rain to start Monday morning, but temperatures up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across much of England and Wales, then, it is a largely dry start to the day, perhaps even with some weak sunshine, but a cold start across the southeast. And through much of Monday, not much changes across much of England and Wales. We'll see some hazy spells of sunshine and the odd shower, but turning wet and windy across the northwest of Scotland, with coastal gales here too, and heavy rain that could turn quite persistent at times later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures ranging 9 to even 11 degrees, so rather mild for the time of year. As we go through Monday evening, then we hold on to this wet and windy weather across northwestern Scotland, moving further into much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, persistent at times. But as we head into the week, higher pressure is going to be building, so plenty of dry and settled weather on the way, turning colder with some overnight frosts. Bye-bye.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British Giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 1 o'clock on Sunday and this is the weekend on GB News. Your headlines for today's show: the UK is moving closer to the EU. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer will meet with EU leaders again in the hope of looking to improve our relationship. But is he focusing too much on the European bloc instead of getting a trade deal with that there President Trump? And tackling child exploitation. Police will have new powers to crack down on AI tools being used to create sexualised pictures of children. The government is warning new technology is putting child sexual abuse on steroids.
My child's image could be being used. Anybody in the country's child's image could be used to make this horrendous content.
And Chinese takeover. The Tower of London could soon be put in the shadows of Chinese largest diplomatic complex in Europe. And a bit of royal news for a Sunday. The Princess of Wales wants to change the state of modern life. She says it's leaving people with a poor mental health, addiction and abuse. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. So, hello, thank you so much for joining me this Sunday. Thank you for your company. This show is all about you and I really enjoy your company. I love chatting to you. It's the highlight of my show. It's the 2nd of February, I know, and you've probably got through dry January. Did you get through dry January? Have you got a hangover this morning after completely letting it all go on the 1st of February whilst watching the rugby? I know certain people have done that, so we'll be talking about that later on. But this show is genuinely nothing without you and your views, so let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today or anything you want to have a chat about, basically. That's what we're here for. Very simple to get involved at gbnews.com/your say and join in our conversation. Cracking panel for you for today and a packed show as well, so I don't want to go anywhere. We have a former UKIP leader Henry Bolton and journalist JJ Anastiobi, looking very dapper, both of you. We're actually in tonal colours today.
Yeah.
Michael Portella's just told me off for wearing grey, basically. God. Should be wearing red or purple or something. But you know,
it's the opposite extreme.
I think we look smart between us, any case. But before we get stuck into today's stories, here's the news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good afternoon to you. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. 4 new laws have been introduced to tackle the threat of child sexual abuse images generated by artificial intelligence. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says AI has put child sexual abuse on steroids and claims the UK will be the first country to make it illegal to possess, create or distribute tools that create abusive images. Owning software which can generate these pictures could result in a 5-year prison sentence. Users found to own AI-made so-called paedophile manuals could face up to 3 years in jail. Ministers are warning that AI-generated images are being used to blackmail children and push them into live streaming abuse. Meanwhile, new laws to target smuggling gangs have been introduced in an effort to stop small boat crossings and stop migrant deaths. The Home Office hopes new counter-terror-style powers will enable authorities to go further in dismantling gangs and their ability to operate. The government has also announced millions of pounds worth of funding to tackle the root causes of illegal migration. Canada and Mexico have announced retaliatory tariffs after the US imposed import taxes on the two countries and China. Canada and Mexico face a 25% tax. China will see an additional 10% on top of existing tariffs. China says it firmly opposes the levies and plans to respond in kind. Well, the White House says the tariffs against its largest trading partners are necessary to combat drug trafficking and illegal immigration. The Mexican President, Claude Sheinbaum, and the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, have responded overnight.
I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
Now, the Prime Minister is being urged to start talks on a new customs union with the EU, with the Lib Dem leader Sued Davy claiming it would boost the UK economy and strengthen trade with the US. Sir Keir Starmer is in Germany today for talks with Chancellor Olaf Scholz ahead of a European leaders' retreat where defence cooperation is expected to top the agenda. Labour is also facing scrutiny over a donation linked to the EU. The Conservatives are warning the Prime Minister not to accept further EU influence. Barclays says the technical problems that left some customers unable to access their accounts for several days have now been resolved. The IT glitch, which began on payday Friday, left some people unable to make transactions and in some cases unable to pay their tax bills. Well, Barclays apologised. It says delayed payments have been processed now and says it will ensure no customer is left out of pocket. HMRC confirmed the delayed payments will not face penalties. There's been a deadline extension until the 1st of March. And finally, to Pennsylvania in the United States, where thousands of revellers have gathered for the annual Groundhog Day celebration. Now, the tradition goes back more than a century. It was made famous, of course, through the Bill Murray film of the same name. So, what was Groundhog Punxsutawney Phil's prediction for the end of winter this year?
It's Punxsutawney Phil! I miss my coop, so I'm headed back down. There's a shadow up here. Get ready for 6 more weeks of winter this year. Woo!
There you go, 6 more weeks of winter in the United States. Hopefully not the case here in the UK. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with a little more a little later.
Thank you very much, Aaron. We've been having a right giggle here already. So please do join in, because it's a Sunday afternoon, you've got nothing else to do. May as well join in, put your feet up. It's the 2nd of February, you've survived January, congratulations. OK, let's get straight into today's story, shall we? Now, waking up this morning, you really didn't want to be Keir Starmer. Sundays are never a good day, are they? The newspapers today, every single story not positive. The Prime Minister is being urged to begin discussions on creating a new customs union with the EU. It is, as Sir Keir Starmer is set to meet a German Chancellor Olaf Scholz tomorrow. He'll become the first Prime Minister since Brexit to attend dinner with EU leaders. Lib Dem leader Ed Davey is hoping he'll aim to bring the UK closer to the European bloc, arguing it'll put rocket boosters on the UK economy and strengthen our hand against Donald Trump. But should we be focusing our relationship with America rather than the EU? Interesting debate, this one, isn't it? Joining me now is former Labour spokesman James Matthewson. James, that reset, I mean, Starmer does a lot of resets, doesn't he? So now we're resetting our relationship with the EU. What's going on here, then?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dawn. I think the word reset has probably been one of the most used in politics over the past 6 months.
Black hole, black hole.
Exactly, and I think reset is up there with the rest. But yeah, this is what they're aiming to do. It's trying to really reset that relationship and take things back to basics and start new relations with the EU to say what benefits can both the bloc and Britain get from a new relationship. You know, people have changed, figures have changed. There's new kind of people in leadership roles in the EU. You know, the Brexit, enough time seems to have passed since Brexit where, you know, many of the things that were said on both sides during that debate and during the referendum period seem to have kind of passed and it's water under the bridge. And of course, the thing that focuses everyone's mind at the moment is the election of Donald Trump, which has kind of put everything into stark contrast, I think, for most people.
Well, this is where I'm getting a bit confused. So it's easily done, to be honest with you. But I'm getting a bit confused with, on one hand, we've got Donald Trump saying he's going to potentially slap a trading tariff on the EU bloc. And let's face it, many countries in the EU bloc aren't having a good time of it at the moment, in full stop in any case. And we want to get more in bed with them? That doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Well, not joining the bloc. I mean, that would never be the proposal that would come forward. It would just be about closer relationships with our European allies in the same way that we will do with with America. Of course, the problem is at the moment we do have a lot of instability on the world stage because of the Trump administration. You've got the Prime Minister of Denmark is flying around Europe at the moment trying to gather support because of genuine fears over the future of Greenland. You've got a lot of rhetoric, and some people say don't listen to the words he says, look at his actions. But you have to take words at face value in diplomatic relations. And Donald Trump is very, very unstable, an unstable individual. And I think the closer we are to all of our allies, the more beneficial for us in the long run.
Hold on, you said we have to take words at face value, right? Only 18% of the public trust in the ability of MPs to tell the truth. So the words are pretty meaningless.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I think the kind of the general attitude about politicians across the globe and across the West is part of the reason we have people like Donald Trump in positions. Politicians have let people down for years and years and years. And of course, there's been, the truth has been something that's been far removed from politics for a very long time. But that doesn't make the instability and the chaos caused by the likes of Donald Trump and the people he's putting into his high positions in his cabinet any less real. It's kind of trading one thing for the other, isn't it?
But okay, leaving Trump aside, though, we know that Keir Starmer wasn't a big fan of Brexit. I mean, how many times did he, second referendum, we need to get out of this, it's not working, da-da-da. How many times have we gone down that road and we're still going down it? So what is the reset exactly going to involve?
So I would imagine it's just about saying to them, what are we not doing at the moment that we could be doing on both sides? What would the EU like to see from Britain?
So that's asking the EU what we can do. Didn't we vote to get out of that?
Also asking the EU what they can do for us. It works both ways. It's the same in any diplomatic relation. If you take it back to basics, it's about trying to forge a relationship that works for both sides. What kind of things are they struggling with from Britain at the moment that would make things easier, that we would be able to trade in exchange for, obviously, our thing? And of course, there's many, many red lines because of Brexit, Things like freedom of movement are not going to be up for grabs because that would be political suicide for Keir Starmer. So it's things like that they're going to tread carefully around. But the EU know this, and the fact that we're coming back to the table now after the time that has passed since the Brexit debate means that we are in a strong position to be able to have that negotiation. Look, people like me who never wanted Brexit to happen, we'll always be upfront and honest about that. I didn't want it to ever happen. However, it has happened. It's in the past. We move forward, and with this new world that we're in as a country independent from the bloc, we'll be able to forge a new healthy relationship.
Right, but healthy for who, James? This is my worry. They hold all the ace cards in this, don't they? Because we're going back to them. It's not them saying, oh, come back, we need you.
No, not necessarily. I think with the fears of Donald Trump, I think they're looking at, especially having strong partners and relationships outside of the bloc, because you have to remember, like you've just said, the bloc is looking at having a tariff slapped on it across the board. Okay, so allies outside of the bloc, countries that are not part of the European Union who have good relationships with the European Union, will be a strong benefit to them going forward. So, they want to have a good relationship with us just the same as we do. And look, they're our neighbours. We talk about them as this kind of homogenous entity, but at the same time, they're all those countries that we know and love and that we holiday in, that we travel in, that we have family in. They're our next door neighbours, and we should have a good, strong relationship with them either way.
Spain spent most of last summer telling us all to go home and tucking buckets of water over tourists.
Well, I mean, if you want to take it that way, everyone in Britain's been telling everyone to go home for quite some time, haven't we? We've hardly been a hospitable nation for some time now. If you read any of the newspaper headlines or listen to our rhetoric of our politicians for the past 14 years. But it's about water under the bridge and just sitting down with people and saying, what can we do? I think it's a sensible thing is to hear people out and to say, what can we do? What does it look like? It doesn't mean anything's changing or up for grabs yet. It's just about being open to negotiation, which at the moment is a very sensible thing.
James, I admire your trust in politicians. I really do. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That's James Mathewson, Labour spokesman, former Labour spokesman. I know you don't speak from there. Thank you very much, James, for joining us this afternoon. Very trusting young man there, I'm thinking. And let me see what my panel make of this one. Former UKIP leader Henry Bolton and journalist and broadcaster JJ Anisiobi. I'm going to come to you first on this one, Henry. Obviously, you've got a vested interest in this. You know what the potentials are. This reset, Brexit reset, Does it need a reset?
It does on our side, not with the European Union. One of the things that's been lacking throughout has been a clear vision. Since before the referendum, in fact, during the campaign, it was lacking, was a vision as to where we wanted to be post-Brexit. What was this all about? Where did we aspire to be 20, 25 years from now, and how did we want to get there? Now, if we'd had that, in fact, even if we established that now, then there would be an orientation for British negotiation and working with all sorts of partners around the world, Americans, European Union and so on, as to, we'd know what we want to do. You were quite right there when you you implied that, I think you actually said, that Keir Starmer is actually going to them to ask them what we can do.
But that doesn't sound right to me.
But if you think about, not so long ago, soon after the referendum and after we left the European Union, it was all about lily pads. Do you remember that? And so British diplomats were going over to Brussels and trying to establish what the European Union would agree to. So we were trying to fit the European Union post-Brexit rather than determine where we wanted to go. And that's why the European... I spent 3 years as a chief planner for common security and defence policy in the European Union. And colleagues of mine who were working over there, from Finland particularly, who was a chair of one of the committees, was absolutely flabbergasted. He said, we thought the United Kingdom would be all over this and they would be dominating all of the discussions and the negotiations. He said, nothing of the sort. It's been totally ridiculous. They've come to us and said, what do you want us to do? How can we fit in with you? Which was, which had us all caught off guard because we thought Britain would know what it wanted. It doesn't. And that's still the case. But I just come back on a couple of things very briefly. Brexit... we just had the 5th anniversary, obviously.
Really not mentioned it.
We talked ad infinitum about that. But, we've got to recognise that actually, because of that, our trade with the United States is now growing 1.5 times faster, our exports to the United States, than those of the European Union. We export $157 billion worth of goods and services to the United States. We've also been able to join the CTP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Yeah. Now we don't know what that's going to benefit, how that's going to benefit us, but we do know that that's a market that we wouldn't have had that access to if we were still in the European Union. So what we've and finally, from my time working with the Foreign Office, I know, because I have had the discussions with them at director level, they don't have any interest in the UK taking the lead. There is an institutional culture in the very senior levels of the civil service, and I suspect it feeds through, particularly at the present time, to ministers, that Britain actually needs to be a partner, not take the lead. Leadership is an unfashionable word. They don't have the confidence or the knowledge to take the lead. There is this attitude that the United Kingdom is a small, piddling little country just north of the European mainland continent, and that we shouldn't be even trying to punch above our weight. This country has huge advantages, massive advantages, but all we're doing, as actually the Social Democrat Party keeps trying to flag up, is we are selling off our advantages. Shipyards going to Spain, power companies going to the French and so on. We're giving away. This country is up for sale, and Keir Starmer is giving away more of it, in fact, trying to sell parts of it.
Well, literally giving away the Chagos Islands and giving money away at the same time.
Well, exactly. So we are submissive, where we actually need, if industry and investors are going to have confidence in us, they want to feel that we are confident ourselves, that we are driving forward, and we've got a vision and we've got a direction.
I think we've got to be realistic here, guys.
Go on, JJ, got to be realistic.
Let's be realistic here. Yeah. As great as a country Britain is, we cannot compete with a whole set of European countries who band together.
We shouldn't compete. We shouldn't try to compete.
We can say that, we're increasing trade with the USA.
Yeah.
Yes, but if we're a part of Europe, we could be doing trade with lots of other countries around the world.
Our trade with the European Union is also increasing.
The USA is not big enough to sustain just Britain. And even when Boris Johnson, who was the biggest sycophant of Donald Trump, even when he's going to Trump saying, "Oh look, we love you," blah blah blah, etc., Trump still imposed tariffs on British goods.
But, I don't want to interrupt, but I talked about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'm not for a moment saying that we should not cooperate with or trade with our European partners. Of course we should. I have always said always that we should collaborate on matters of common interest. That includes trade and security and defence.
But then I'm saying we can't go in there and be bullish to them and say, we're Great Britain and we can be the leaders.
No, but we should...
Because the European Union, as a collective, look at us and say, OK, you go and lead. Because they actually don't need us for trade.
Let me give you
They're doing fine by themselves.
Let me give you an example, concrete example of what I mean. Keir Starmer, I suspect in preparation for this dinner, has pledged £5 million, which isn't very much, to Tunisia. That goes on top of the European Union's, I think, 110 million euros, which they've pledged to try and help the Tunisians deal with immigration towards the European Union and Europe in general. And that, I think, was him sort of buying a token for this dinner where he can say, well, look, we're contributing as well. Instead of doing that, because all of Europe is suffering from the immigration problem, what he should be doing is forward-leaning and saying to the Spanish, the Italians and the French, because they don't want these people are coming across on boats any more than we do. Say to these countries, look, why don't we put together a coalition to deal with this people smuggling and the movement, both the push factors, the pull factors, and the organised crime facilitating it along the way, and the failures in criminality in North Africa, in the Sahel.
They already have one. And we're not part of it.
Right.
Why does it benefit them?
This is not true.
It is true. Why does it benefit them to say, OK, well, we've got everyone working together here, except for you guys. So let's make up a new task force that includes Great Britain. That makes no sense.
I led the technical team that did the operational planning for the EU border mission in Libya, which then moved to Tunisia. I can tell you that there is no operational programme to deal with this. There is none. There is aid going into those countries. There's a little bit of liaison going on, but there is nothing concrete. The UK is and has been in a perfect position to try and put that coalition together. But they don't want to, and the reason they don't want to, because taking leadership in that way is, in essence, saying we're going to do our own thing rather than the European Commission should take the lead. That's what they want.
OK, blimey, what a start. Where do you even go with this one? What do you reckon out there? GBNews.com.
Sorry, Joe. It's my thing.
He has been there and worn the T-shirt. What do you reckon, though? Let us know. Get in touch. But, I mean, do you trust Keir Starmer having dinner with the EU? What do you reckon they're going to chat about? Who's going to come out of that one the best? Let me know. In any case, for all the best analysis and opinion on that story, just go to our website, which is gbnews.com. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. Police will soon have more powers to stop criminals using AI to exploit children. All of that and more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. You can get the kettle on, make sure it's an English tea bag or a British tea bag at the very least, and we'll see you very soon.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Ironic article in The Guardian, Nick, caring about facts.
Yeah, this is Meta is ushering in a world without facts, says Nobel Peace Prize winner. And they just seem to give these Nobel Peace Prizes to anyone these days. So it's Maria Ressa.
Not working.
Zuckerberg came out, and it was very bold. He said a few things. We're going to use community notes instead of fact-checkers. Fact-checkers inverted commas, it just means people pushing usually a specific viewpoint. Community notes seems to be a great system that X uses, so why not do that? I think that's great. He's going to reduce restrictions on topics like immigration and gender. Good, because I'm against censorship. He's going to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more, which is great. He's also moving content moderation to Texas instead of California, which is banter. So now the cynical version is he just realises we've got a new regime, it's the MAGA era, and I want to be mates with Trump, who said that I should that if I interfere with the 2024 election, he should spend the rest of his life in prison. So he did mention he might be a bit scared of that. He was involved in that in Facebook suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, and I feel that he didn't like being a part of all that from watching.
And also the suppression of arguments about gender and sex, what is biological sex and whatnot. You get banned for saying there are two sexes.
They're on the wrong side of this, and now he's correcting. But the weird thing is the people, of course, the people who don't like this, the lefties, this person, Ressa, is saying that this is a big problem. It's an extremely dangerous time. I've seen all this from the lefties. They just call it disinformation. They're worried about this because to them it's disinformation. To other people it's information.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think we can all agree if people think they're getting their facts just directly from Facebook, then something's horribly wrong. But we know that. The community notes thing, I think, is quite good because that sort of first-hand experience people are putting down, aren't they?
Yeah. People have loads of different views come together, and it's an aggregate, so that's why it works.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Sorry, just telling my panellists off there. Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Newsom, having to tell Henry to stop it. I'll tell you what he was needing to stop later on, so you don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to miss that bit. OK, now, the UK is set to become the first country in the world to make it illegal to own artificial intelligence tools designed to make images of child sexual abuse. Who makes this stuff? The move comes amid warnings that artificial intelligence has fuelled a wave of sex abuse against children. Oh, brace yourself, people. GB News reporter Charlie Peters has joined a police raid and reports on this, frankly, horrific story. Here he is.
Police officers on their way to arrest 2 suspects for allegedly downloading and sharing child sexual abuse images.
Right! Right! Open the door. Come out.
With 2 suspects in custody, specialist dogs capable of detecting hidden digital devices search the property. The arrests come as Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips announced new measures to tackle predators who are using artificial intelligence to target children.
We're announcing new measures to criminalise the creation of AI child abuse images, to criminalise the running. It seems shocking, I think, to the public to know that actually running a child abuse manual website is not currently illegal, so we will be putting measures in place so that that is illegal.
Ministers are also introducing new powers to Border Force, allowing officers to unlock digital devices for inspection if they suspect that they pose a risk. The rise of abuse linked to AI has alarmed chiefs, who now report that their average number of arrests for all child abuse has doubled since 2017. This alarming acceleration of the threat has been reported as the Internet Watch Foundation has warned that AI-generated abuse material has risen by 380% in a year.
My child's image could be being used. Anybody in the country's child's image could be used to make this horrendous content that fuels child abuse in our country. It is a massive battle. This is where it starts. This is not where it ends.
The government is committed to fighting AI-related child abuse, but the scale of the challenge is stark. Charlie Peters, GB News, Hertfordshire.
It's just horrific, isn't it? It really is. Joining me now is former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Mike, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I mean, you watched Charlie's report, and you're sitting there with your jaw on the floor, going, "I can't believe this goes on, and I can't believe there aren't laws already preventing it." What do you make of it?
Oh, the criminals and these wicked pornographers, child pornographers, they're always quicker than the government. The government has to have committee meetings and discuss things. The criminals just get on with it. And I always thought I was a tough guy in the police. You know, I was in the police rugby team. I could fight with anybody. And I actually saw some child pornography once. I wish I'd never seen it. I wish I could unsee that, what I saw. Absolutely vile and disgusting. And the thing is with AI, it offers opportunities. I had the world's first conviction. I matched a guy to several crimes by the pattern on his T-shirt. So AI offers great opportunities for crime detection, but it also offers the sort of most wicked opportunities to these pornographers to create images of children which are just beyond belief.
Is this going far enough, Mike? Is this actually going to make a difference?
The trouble with the police, they've got so much now. You know, when I was a young police officer, you know, you had your burglars, your thieves, your robbers, your rapists, all these different kind of things. The trouble with policing today, of course, it's got all those burglars, robbers and rapists, but it's also got the online offending as well. There's a massive problem with fraud, of course, and online, but with child pornography, where it used to be some, you know, wicked, seedy old men exchanging dirty books. Now, you know, the opportunities to sell this sort of vile material, to make money from it, it is just so easy on the internet. And the difficulty is, of course, is that every police force in the world is set up to deal with, you know, Tokyo set up to deal with problems in Tokyo, New York, NYPD set up to deal with problems in New York, the Met is set up to deal with problems in London. But that you could sit and make these obscene and wicked images in Thailand, on the Isle of Wight, or in Buenos Aires, and then it's distributed around the world. So it's very difficult in a world where the police aren't designed to deal with this sort of international crime.
And the problem is, Mike, we've got AI now that is inventing other AI. So we don't even know what AI itself is doing. So, I mean, trying to keep track of that is almost impossible.
You're absolutely right. You know, you sort of, you know, the Terminator films and the like used to be sort of the science fiction. Now it's science fact, where machines can invent machines to deal with this. Computers can invent programs to deal with this. And of course, people, as I said, criminals will always be one step ahead because they've got no Data Protection Act or Equalities Act or anything else. They can simply just invent this stuff. And it's just the wickedness of seeing children abused, their images used. As a parent, as anybody, but as I say, I can't unsee what I saw, and I wish I could.
Yeah. And Mike, just finally, do we need tougher sentences for this in any case? I mean, you know, we've had recent cases involving celebrities, don't want to mention any names, but I mean, it's like, you know, where you don't even serve prison time for making child pornography.
Too often these people walk away, don't they? I'll name Hugh Edwards was found guilty, and so we can name him. But he pleaded guilty. But too often, you know, people are sent to prison for the most bizarre things. We've seen this with like Facebook posts and all this sort of nonsense. Yet they're not sent to prison when they're in possession or making the most evil images where a child has been hurt, and that child is going to suffer for life. These people need to be locked up. You can't cure them. They need to be locked up and locked up for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Here's a key. Let's try it away, shall we?
Yeah, gladly. I'll throw the key away with you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. That's our former Met Police Detective, Mike Neville, on, well, hopefully cracking down on our child pornography, but we'll see, won't we? I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GBNews, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. Will the Tower of London soon be dwarfed by China's largest embassy in Europe? You don't want to miss that one, but first, let's get those news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Hi there, good afternoon. Let's get you up to date with our top stories. The UK is set to become the first country in the world to criminalise owning AI tools that create images of child sexual abuse. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says offenders could face up to 5 years in prison under the new crackdown. Owning AI paedophile manuals could carry a 3-year sentence. And ministers are warning that AI-generated images are being used to blackmail children and push them into live streaming abuse. New laws to target smuggling gangs have been introduced in an effort to stop small boat crossings and migrant deaths in the Channel. The Home Office says New counter-terror-style powers will enable border force and police and other authorities to go further in dismantling gangs' ability to operate. The government has also announced millions of pounds worth of funding to tackle the root causes of illegal migration. The Prime Minister is being urged to start talks on a new customs union with the EU. The Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davey, says it would boost the UK economy and strengthen trade against the US. Sir Keir Starmer is having talks with the Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor. Tomorrow, he will be part of a European leaders' gathering where defence cooperation is expected to be top of the agenda. He'll be the first Prime Minister to do that since Brexit. Labour is also facing scrutiny over a donation linked to the EU. The Conservatives are warning the Prime Minister not to accept further EU influence. And Barclays claims the technical problems that have left some customers unable to access their accounts for days have now been resolved. The glitch, which began on Friday, left some people unable to make transactions or pay their bills, in some cases their tax bills. Well, Barclays has apologised, says delayed payments have now been processed and says it will ensure no customer impacted is left out of pocket. HMRC have extended the deadline for payments until the 1st of March. That's it for the moment. More just after 2 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. While across the southeast there's plenty of sunshine today, elsewhere cloudy with some rain, but turning drier for most of us by midweek. Having a look at the bigger picture then, we have higher pressure out towards the east. We have this frontal system, very weak in nature, just bringing cloud and patchy rain. So after a cold, chilly start across the southeast, plenty of sunshine through the afternoon. Then we hold on to a lot of cloud across Scotland, northwest England, into Wales and the southwest of England, with some patchy light rain here, turning drier and brighter behind across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. In terms of temperatures though, around average for the time of year, with highs up to 8 or 9 degrees. So as we go through Sunday evening then, we see that cloud and rain across Scotland clearing its way eastwards. Then we'll see some clearing skies for a time, especially out towards the west. A similar picture for Northern Ireland as well. We hold on to clear skies to start the evening, temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees, but a lot of clouds still across much of England and Wales, especially out towards the west with some patchy rain. Further towards the southeast though, that's where we'll see clearest skies for the longest, so a touch of frost and some fog patches, but cloud will start moving through. Again, still with some patchy drizzle at times, but that should start to fade. Across northwestern Scotland though, turning increasingly windy here with spells of rain. But temperatures generally holding up for most of us, so a frost-free start, but across Sussex and Kent, that's where we'll see a touch of frost, perhaps some freezing fog patches to start Monday morning. Elsewhere across England and Wales, it is a largely dry picture, perhaps with some hazy sunshine across parts of Wales, a few showers at times in the south, but wet and windy conditions coming into Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland, where the rain could be particularly heavy, highs of up to 10 to 11 degrees.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you very much for your company. We were chatting during the break, as you do on a Sunday afternoon, about marriages, what makes a successful marriage, and I've got some great confessions coming up for you. So you can let me know what you think about marriage, gbnews.com/your say, because that one is a cracker and it's coming up very soon. OK, now, Tower of London. It will soon be dwarfed by a new Chinese mega embassy, the biggest one in Europe. Tower of London is in East London, by the way, quite close to the city and quite strategically important. But local residents have united to oppose plans in a battle being labelled as David versus Goliath. According to reports, Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is set to give the project the green light, but local residents claim their concerns have been ignored, saying they are being treated as pawns in a wider geopolitical game. I actually live in that area and I don't believe any local residents actually said that, but you know what they mean. JJ, I'm going to come to you first. This isn't about so much about the local battle. It's just about Europe's biggest Chinese embassy being built right on the edge of the city of London. And literally, Angela Rayner now, with the new planning laws that Labour brought in, being able to ride roughshod over literally any local objections.
Yeah, but there's a couple of things here. So the Chinese government bought this area of land back in 2018, and that included some flats that were on the land.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, by the letter of the law, they're not doing anything wrong. I don't think any diplomatic house or whatever in this country should be this big. I don't care whether it's America, whether it's China. I think there should be laws on how big it can be. I think there should be laws on how much of our British land we're selling. If they want to lease the land from us, that's one thing, but we've just sold it off to them.
Yeah, and it's a big plot of land.
It's a huge plot of land, exactly. But if we say it's overshadowing, you go to London Bridge, there's the Shard. That's not British owned. That's owned by the Arabs. That literally towers over that whole area.
Yeah.
But people are OK with that. This, I think, has more to do with the fact that it's a Chinese. Go to North London, that scummy football club, Arsenal. The Emirates Stadium.
I'm a West Ham girl. Be more specific.
The Emirates Stadium towers over a large part. It's an eyesore. I hate having to walk past it. That's not for it's a British football club. It's not really British owned at all. And we see this all over the country.
Keir Starmer's love of Keir Starmer's life, that is.
Disgusting. No wonder he's a... Anyway, so I don't see a problem with it by the letter of the law, but I think we should have reforms made so that we shouldn't be selling off British land to foreign countries.
OK, but, I mean, obviously, we accept that foreign investment in this country, I mean, they do own most of London, foreign investment, but this is an embassy, which has different rules about what you can do on the land, what they can do on that land, what access you have to that land, what access you have to that building.
There's, I mean, and the other thing, just briefly about the Shard, we don't have a big Chinese flag flying from the Shard. Well, there'll be a big Chinese flag flying from a huge building just next door to an iconic British landmark. In fact, two, because you've got Tower Bridge as well.
Yeah.
Tower Bridge and Tower of London. Now, so every tourist to those landmarks is going to see this massive, great edifice with a Chinese flag stuck on top of it. It is a statement. And it is a statement in the centre of our capital city. I think we should worry about that, not on its own, but in the context that we have got. We are. If you think about the amount of goods that we consume in this country that are Chinese, we and other countries are powering the Chinese economy, and they are increasingly dominating our economy.
You go around your house, right, and you out there as well, go around your house and try and find something that isn't actually made in China.
Indeed. Well, it's very difficult. Our clothes are, and if you're an environmentalist, all our clothes, most of our clothes anyway, are made of plastic, produced in China. And, you know, you talk about shopping bags and so on, plastic shopping bags. Well, what about all the nylons, the polyesters, all the rest of it, produced in China, shipped around the world, and actually dominating and taking, by the domination, control of our economies. Then you've got a Prime Minister and a government at the moment who are trying to pay Mauritius £9 billion to take sovereignty of British territory. Now, Mauritius, you know, has no... There's no logic behind that, none whatsoever. No. And we know that whatever the noises are made diplomatically, China has been arguing for this in the United Nations for some years now. We know it plays into China's hands. Then we've got this embassy. then we've got the likelihood that China is going to have an exemption from rules that govern and control, and I know this is going to sound silly to viewers, but countries are allowed, if you like, registered intelligence officers in other countries. So the Chinese, the Americans, the Russians and so on, all have them here. We know about it. Some of them are registered. But the rules regarding that, China is going to have, the government is talking about giving China a large degree of exemption from those rules. What is going on? I see a government here. So in that context, I find this incredibly worrying. What is the game with China? Why are we appeasing, not even appeasing, why are we supporting Chinese interests over our own national security interests, whether it's in the Chagos or whether it's this embassy or whether it's in terms of intelligence and espionage? Because that is what we're doing. Now, there may be a very good reason for it. And one final point on this, I know from my background that there are deals done with China, for example, in nuclear power stations where we provide equipment for those nuclear power stations and so on, and they, in return, we allow them to have certain influence here. That's a give and take. But this is going far too far, in my mind.
Yeah, I just want to bring you in on this one, JJ, again. You know, the government made a big fuss about, you know, I'm not defending Prince Andrew, by the way, in any way, shape or form, about Prince Andrew's relationship with someone who is alleged to be a Chinese spy. It's been on the front pages. I mean, Andrew's basically a useful idiot.
Yeah.
And from what I can work out, hasn't actually said anything apart from maybe that interview wasn't a good idea. Well, no,
briefest of comments from the European Union, the two countries that conduct the most amount of espionage, human intelligence, are in Brussels, the European Union, are China and India.
OK.
Fact.
So, anyway, we're getting our knickers in a twist about Andrew, and yet we're letting China build this huge embassy.
Yeah.
Right in London.
And they will have diplomatic immunity to do whatever they want.
Yeah. We can't just wander in there and go, excuse me, what are you doing?
But if we go back, was it 2 years ago with the Saudi consulate here and the journalist was killed? What happened to that? There's no ramifications for them. Britain continues to have great business deals with Saudi Arabia. We continue to support them and whitewash them with sport and everything else. I think it's bad that China are able to build this mega structure, but it's no different to any other country.
Except that China has control. Only most of British military uniforms are now made in China. Only 6% of military uniforms are made in the United Kingdom.
Oh, my Lord.
The vast majority, all of the British Army's combat uniforms are made in China.
What are we going to do? Go to a different country for the sake of it and pay more money?
We've allowed this to occur. So this is happening against that backdrop. And so that's my concern. It's not the embassy. It's not the Chagos Islands. It's not the uniforms. It's the whole package.
There's always a leader when it comes to the world stage. There's always a leader. And we have to accept it's time for Britain to say, that isn't us anymore.
We used to produce all this stuff ourselves. We used to, yeah. And we still could. And I think we still can.
I totally agree.
And I think we should move. That should be part of the vision and the trajectory on which any British government puts this country.
Britain first.
Yes.
That's what it should be, shouldn't it?
I think collaborate, cooperate, trade, but we've got to put the interests of the United Kingdom and the British people first.
But we're all at fault because we are buying cheap products from China.
Correct.
I mean, I did seriously go around my home
am I allowed to say this? They're crap. They are crap. I mean, you buy a pair...
Sorry for any language. You might
but they are. I apologise.
It's a Sunday, Henry.
Henry gets very passionate, and I am going to make him go to church and apologise for that straight
I do apologise. I apologise. But if you buy a pair of...
We've got to go now, Henry.
Well, I don't want to.
No, I'm cancelling you now. Bad boy. Apologies for that language. We don't normally do that one here. I will
apologise.
Punish him during the break, as it were. Anyways, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. No bad language, though. The Princess of Wales wants to change the state of modern life. She says it's leaving people with poor mental health and addiction abuse. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Put the kettle on, but make sure it's a British tea bag, all right? Not Chinese. We'll see you soon.
Earlier on GB News, is the Prime Minister seeking even closer ties with the EU?
Sir Keir Starmer is set to meet European leaders in Brussels.
A little perplexed as to why our closest friends and neighbours are choosing to target us.
This is a war that I would not fight if I were Justin Trudeau. The Canadian exports to the U.S. are 21% of their economy. For U.S. exports to Canada are 1% of GDP. It's a rounding error.
She mixes high street with high-end fashion, but the fact that Buckingham Palace put out who the designers are, maybe that is a good idea.
From 6, it's GB News Breakfast.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Jonathan, in London, we're hearing that there could be more posties from an Amazon point of view in order to limit or cut carbon emissions, but that they could put more people on foot delivering their parcels.
This is really interesting because more and more people now obviously are using Amazon and buying their shopping online or buying gifts online. And it's interesting that in London they're talking about putting their Amazon workers on foot. There are now parts of the country, I think Milton Keynes is one part of the country, where there's robots delivering parcels. Or
Really?
You'll see these, well, they call them robots. You'll see these little things sort of bundling down the street.
Yes.
Sort of...
robots.
Yeah, I mean, technically they are a robot, but when I think of a robot, I think of a sort of...
A humanoid robot.
Yeah, sort of humanoid thing, sort of, Lost in Space style robot. But actually, they're sort of... little sort of carriages, little
droids,
boxes.
like
Yeah.
Star Wars droid type.
Well, they're not
things.
even that. They're like a little sort of, they're like a box on wheels, delivering parcels in places like Milton Keynes and other bits of the country. So I think this is just another example of how the world is changing. Online shopping is completely changing the way in which we all live our lives, the way things, the way
But
in
I
which
think
things are
Milton
delivered.
Keynes lends itself to something like that. This is a newly designed town.
Yeah.
And
Exactly, that's why they're in Milton Keynes.
And
yeah.
I really do think that a town like that really does lend itself towards a piece of tech like that. When I think back, our postie in Gloucestershire is a guy called Dave. He's fantastic. Everyone knows who he is. But I'm not sure that he could be replaced by one of these little droid things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, welcome back. Henry has been thoroughly reprimanded and he will now be quiet for at least 5 minutes. This is The Weekend. I'm Dawn Neeson. Now, the Princess of Wales is launching a new initiative aimed at developing the nation's social and emotional skills, Henry. The scheme looks to alleviate the human cost from a world sometimes filled with mistrust and misunderstanding. Catherine says the state of modern life is leaving many of us feeling isolated and vulnerable during troubled periods, resulting in poor mental health, addiction and abuse. Joining me now to discuss this is the wonderful broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Barrett. Hello. Lucy, thank you very much for coming into this. OK, now, I read all this morning and I thought, yeah, she's got a point. But if Meghan had said this, she would have been accused of all sorts of touchy-feely, loved-up American Californian stuff. But what do you make of Kate saying it?
I love the fact that she's saying it. I love the fact that she and Harry and William, many years ago, set up Heads Together.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a very strong commitment to supporting the mental health of people in the country, and certainly talking about these topics, which many of us just don't do.
No,
I think she made a very interesting intervention yesterday where she said, judge me by my work, not by my wardrobe. It's not really her fault that the media are obsessed with whether her outfit is by Zara or Dior. And at the same time, she has been working with the NHS to pilot a programme to look at the emotional literacy of very small infants. And that scheme has actually been so successful that they're going to spread that out to other 8 NHS areas. Now, if someone from the royal family can do that, I think that that's a really good thing.
Do you think, I mean, we don't have much time, but the fact that she said, I'm not going to release any more details of my outfits, You're pleased that she's done that? You think that's a sensible thing to do?
I think it is a sensible thing. I mean, they didn't come into this world to be mannequins and to just necessarily give us that eye pop of what you're wearing on the front page of a paper. I want to know what they're actually doing, particularly at a time when other stories this weekend about the royal family were about Prince Andrew and the way in which he appears to have perhaps been someone who didn't think about the responsibility of
Thank you very much, Lucy. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'm doing some GB News, lots more coming up. But first, let's get a look at the weather for you, shall we?
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's going to be cloudy with outbreaks of heavy rain in the northwest, drier in the southeast before higher pressure builds midweek. Looking at the pressure pattern out there at the moment, then higher pressure out towards the east with a weak frontal system towards the west, bringing cloud and rain here. So we've had plenty of sunshine across the southeast through this afternoon. We'll hold on to the clearest skies here through the evening. Cloud across much of northern England, Wales and the southwest, thick enough for some patchy rain and drizzle, but turning wet and windy across northwestern Scotland later through the night. Many places holding up tonight and frost-free, but across the far southeast, that's where we'll see a touch of frost to start Monday morning. Now, through Monday morning, it's a cloudy picture across much of Scotland, some heavy spells of rain and strong winds across the far west. A similar picture across Northern Ireland. We'll see spells of rain to start Monday morning, but temperatures up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across much of England and Wales, then, it is a largely dry start to the day, perhaps even with some weak sunshine, but a cold start across the southeast. And through much of Monday, not much changes across much of England and Wales. We'll see some hazy spells of sunshine and the odd shower, but turning wet and windy across the northwest of Scotland, with coastal gales here too, and heavy rain that could turn quite persistent at times later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures ranging 9 to even 11 degrees, so rather mild for the time of year. As we go through Monday evening, then we hold on to this wet and windy weather across northwestern Scotland, moving further into much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, persistent at times. But as we head into the week, higher pressure is going to be building, so plenty of dry and settled weather on the way, turning colder with some overnight frosts. Bye-bye.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on a Sunday, the 2nd of February. I've got no idea what happened to January either, but I'm glad it did. This is the weekend on GB News. Your headlines for you this hour. The UK is moving closer to the EU. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer will meet with EU leaders again in the hope of looking to improve our relationship. But is he focusing too much on the European bloc instead of getting a trade deal out of Donald Trump? And a Muslim charity is facing calls to lose its charitable status after being accused of promoting the subordination of women. Are you a good wife, I'm asking? And the Six Nations have returned just in time for Dry January to finish. But is it better to avoid the boozer and stay on the health kick? And how are you feeling this morning, by the way? I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. If you did manage to do a Dry January and then thought, right, 1st of February, I'm going to hit the beer, how are you feeling this morning? Especially if you're watching the rugby and you might have lost track of how many pints you were having exactly. We'll be talking all about that later. We might have some good advice that make you feel a little bit better for you. OK, but this show is indeed all about you, whether you've got a hangover or not. So let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today or anything you want to chat about. Basically, hangover cures, more than welcome by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay and join the conversation. You might have noticed this already if you're watching the first hour. Keeping me company on today's show is former UKIP leader, it's Henry Bolden, everybody, and journalist JJ Anasiobi. Thank you very much. Newly engaged as well.
Oh, cat's out of the bag. Thanks for telling everyone.
Yeah, we are talking about marriage later on. But before we get stuck into today's stories, here's not between you. So you're not embarrassed. Come on, save me here, people. Let's get the news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Good afternoon to you. It's 2 minutes past 2. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. 4 new laws have been introduced to tackle the threat of child sexual abuse images generated by artificial intelligence. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says AI has put CSE abuse on steroids and claims the UK will be the first country to make it illegal to possess, create or distribute the tools that create abusive images. Owning software which can generate these pictures could result in offenders facing a 5-year prison sentence. Users found to own AI-made paedophile manuals could face 3 years in jail. Ministers are warning these images are being used to blackmail children and to push them into live streaming abuse. New laws to target smuggling gangs have been introduced in an effort to stop small boat crossings and migrant deaths in the Channel. The Home Office hopes new counter-terror style powers will enable authorities to go further in dismantling gangs and their ability to operate. The government has introduced millions of pounds worth of funding as well to tackle the root causes of illegal migration. Canada and Mexico have announced retaliatory tariffs after the US imposed import taxes on the two countries and China. Donald Trump ordered 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports and 10% on goods from China. He says it's to hold his largest trading partners accountable for failing to halt drug trafficking and illegal migration. Well, China's indicated it will challenge the tariffs through the World Trade Organization, but the Mexican President, Claudia Sheinbaum, and the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, have responded immediately with countermeasures.
I am announcing Canada will be responding to the US trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
Well, Trump's defended the move on social media. A short time ago, he said the decades-long rip-off of America in regard to trade, crime and poisonous drugs is over. And he suggested similar sanctions may be imposed on the EU.
The European Union charges us 20% plus a VAT tax, called a VAT tax, very similar, and it costs us an absolute fortune. We are treated so badly, and we have a tremendous deficit with the European Union, so we'll be doing something very substantial.
The Lib Dem leader, Sir Ed Davies, urged the Prime Ministers to start talks on a new customs union with the EU, claiming it would boost the UK economy. Sir Keir Starmer is holding talks with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz today as the government looks to reset its relationship with the EU. On Monday, the PM will attend a European Leaders Summit where defence cooperation is expected to top the agenda. He will be the first Prime Minister to do that since Brexit. However, according to the Shadow Business Secretary, the Prime Minister should redirect his plane to Washington. Andrew Griffith urged Sir Keir Starmer to prioritise closer trade with the US.
We've been very clear with Keir Starmer about what he's not to be doing, going off to Brussels tomorrow, selling out this country. Actually, I'd much rather he was on a plane to the United States. That's the big opportunity. It's an opportunity we wouldn't have if we hadn't taken advantage of Brexit. We hadn't got control back for our trade policy for the first time in 42 years. In that period, we actually made pretty good use of that. 73 trade deals, including with some of the fastest growing countries on the planet.
Barclays says the technical problems that have left some customers unable to access their accounts for days have now been resolved. The IT glitch, which began on Payday Friday, left some people unable to make transactions or, in some cases, pay their tax bills. Well, Barclays has apologised. It says delayed payments have now been processed, and it says no customer impacted will be left out of pocket. HMRC has extended the payment deadline until the 1st of March. Finally, to Pennsylvania in the United States and the annual Groundhog Day ceremony where thousands of revellers gather at Gobbler's Knob in the town of Punxsutawney to get weather predictions from a small furry rodent. The tradition goes back to 1886. It was, of course, made famous with the Bill Murray film in 1993. So what was Punxsutawney Phil's prediction?
It's Punxsutawney Phil!
I miss my coop, so I'm headed back down. There's a shadow up here. Get ready for 6 more weeks of winter this year.
I'll leave you with a prediction from Bill Murray from Groundhog Day. He said it's going to be cold, it's going to be grey, and it's going to last you for the rest of your life. That's it for the moment.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Yeah, thanks for that, Aaron. That's really cheered us all up. Oh, on a more cheerful note, by the way, did you know, as well as being Groundhog Day, and this is thanks to Richard who's just messaged in, it is also National Yorkshire Pudding Day today. So I hope you're enjoying yours with a nice Sunday lunch out there, because they are British and we can do that. There's probably nothing to do with China in them. We were discussing that earlier on. In any case. OK, well, let's talk about the EU, shall we? Let's get stuck into the EU again. Not you, Henry, you can be quiet. OK, now, Sir Keir Starmer says there's been real progress on the UK's ties with Germany. He's been holding talks with Chancellor Olaf Scholz at Chequers today, ahead of a dinner with EU leaders tomorrow, where it's expected the Prime Minister will begin seeking a new defence and security deal with the bloc. But should we be focusing on our relationship with America rather than the EU? Let's get the thoughts of a political commentator, Aman Bogle. Aman, thank you very much for joining us today. Good to see you. I love the patriotism. Are you having a Yorkshire pudding today, by any chance?
Well, that's the only way to be, Dawn. Good to be on your show. I mean, look at it this way, Dawn. It is Groundhog Day today over in America, but with Labour, every day is Groundhog Day.
Yes.
You know, we've gone from New Labour chasing, the unicorn of the Mondeo man many moons ago to today we've got a self-professed Davos man leading the country. And you know what? He's Davos man. He's prostrating in front of the Chinese Communist Party, and he's doing everything possible to alienate our very good special relationship with the United States by going over to the EU, prostrating in front of Brussels. Let's not forget, he set up his surrender squad. He's brought back in Ollie Robbins, who was so egregious in trying not to let Brexit over the line back a few years ago. So I think it's very obvious that, you know, Keir Starmer is setting us up for a great Brexit betrayal. And, you know, the proof is in the pudding, pretty much because he campaigned for so long to reverse Brexit for a second referendum. His foreign secretary ended up equating Brexiteers as Nazis. So can we really think that these are the people really to fly the flag for global Britain?
Well, I mean, only 18% of people trust politicians of any particular political persuasion at the moment. I mean, do you really think that this reset that Keir Starmer keeps mentioning is just literally a way of softening us up to going back to the EU?
Well, look, whenever a new United States president comes in, you know, historically, traditionally, even the first phone call has been made to the United Kingdom Prime Minister. And on this occasion, it wasn't. We didn't even have an official ministerial presence at the inauguration, last month. And that sort of tells us the story of where Keir Starmer is heading. So he's always had this notion of dragging Britain back into the failing, super-nationalist, socialist bloc that is the EU, where we ought to be looking at the US, at the Indo-Pacific even. I mean, let's break down, for example, when Marco Rubio became the Secretary of State for the US last month. Who were first in line to have a meeting with Marco Rubio? It wasn't David Lammy. It was the Indian foreign minister, followed by even the Indonesian foreign minister, followed by the Japanese foreign minister. Even the Chinese were there. But that's what exactly we are now facing with Keir Starmer, that he's putting Britain not just back of the queue when it comes to our relationship with the United States, but he's also sort of trying to latch us back onto this failing block that is the EU. It's remarkable.
I'm just going to read one comment out from Grumpy Grandad. Hello, Grumpy. Starmer, this is what Grumpy says, Starmer worries me sick. Everything he's doing seems to harm the UK. He just doesn't seem to be looking out for our interests. Whereas everybody else is saying also that Trump at least looks out for the interests of America. Would you agree with those comments?
Absolutely. I think Grumpy Grandad has every reason to be grumpy when Keir Starmer is still failing on immigration. He's still failing to secure our borders, and he's still failing to get free trade back on track for the UK. And you know what? Because of that, of course, we've seen the great surge for Reform UK in the polling, who will probably end up taking, 60 to 70 seats from the Labour heartlands. Because those are exactly the type of people that wanted, real change and real reform. A lot of them voted for Boris back in 2019. Some of them stayed at home last time. Some of them voted Labour, most of them didn't. So he's got this sandcastle majority, and I think it's going to fritter away very quickly as time goes by.
Brilliant. Aman, thank you very much for joining us. Always a joy to talk to you. That's Aman Barga, political commentator. Thank you very much. OK, now for all the best analysis and opinion on that story and much more, please do go to our website, which is at gbnews.com. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has, yes, we are talking about him a lot, but he is in every single one of your Sunday newspapers today, and none of them are good news for him. He has also been accused of making the UK a soft touch after rolling back laws designed to make it near impossible for illegal immigrants to become UK citizens. In a move that has been also been described as a total capitulation to people smugglers, legislation allowing ministers to treat asylum seekers as adults if they refuse scientific checks for their age. Joining me now is the Executive Director of Migration Watch UK, Dr. Mike Jones. Mike, thank you very much for joining us today. Now, look, what do you think of what's going on with this? I mean, it seems to be undoing all the good work, and there's not a lot of it that we've done on tackling migration.
Yeah, the bill is a complete dog's dinner. If it was a private company, it would be sued under the Trade Descriptions Act. It does the very opposite of what it says. It should be renamed the Border and Security Bill. You know, basically its aim is to remove the most robust elements of the Illegal Migration Act. The Illegal Migration Act basically imposed a legal duty on the Home Secretary to remove the channel crossers, and it also prevented these illegal migrants after a certain date from achieving settled status and from then on applying for citizenship. So this is a total capitulation. I think that description is quite apposite. I mean, parts of the bill aren't in themselves objectionable, but on the big questions, Labour has gone into reverse gear.
It's you know, the part that gets me is that other European countries, France and Germany, for example, use medical checks to determine the age of migrants. I mean, we know that 1,300 were caught lying about their age in the first 6 months of 2024. And Keir Starmer and this bill are now saying we're going to stop doing that. So we're just relying on migrants to be honest?
Yeah, it's crazy. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. There's no upside for the Labour Party on this, and there's no upside for the British public. I mean, there should be scientific tests there to ascertain an illegal migrant's age, because if they get it wrong, these people can apply for child services and child benefits. You know, that's obviously an affront to the British taxpayer, and it may put British children in danger, and I think that's completely immoral.
And the other thing with this bill is there is still no deterrent. It completely scraps Rwanda. That's not going to happen now. But surely there needs to be a deterrent. If the idea of this is to save lives by stopping people crossing that channel in the boats, smashing the gangs isn't going to work, because where is the deterrent? Where is the thing that's going to stop these people getting in the boats in the first place?
Well, yeah, the deterrent is to target their clients, who are the illegal immigrants. You know, if you detain these people, ideally deport them within, say, a 48-hour time frame, then that message will get across, and the people smugglers' clients will stop paying the fee because it's not worth their time. It's basic, you know, common sense. It's cause and effect. But what Keir Starmer is doing, he's actually going after the gangs themselves, which is really tricky because they operate in so many different countries. You know, the boat parts, they're produced in Turkey and China. They're often shipped and stored in Germany, Bulgaria, Belgium, and then obviously they're moved through different routes to, you know, Calais and Dunkirk. Yeah, it's a completely bonkers policy, but it is what it is.
I mean, the Conservatives' Illegal Migration Act only passed through Parliament in 2023. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but at least it was something.
Yeah, I mean, there were robust parts of it. I think, you know, having that statutory duty on the Home Secretary to detain and deport these people was the right move, and preventing illegal migrants from claiming settled status, again, really sensible. I mean, where the Tories went wrong was on the deportation aspect. You know, they called an election before the operationalization of the Rwanda plan, but, you know, more fundamentally, they didn't amend or abolish the Human Rights Act because there are huge legal barriers to actually deporting people.
There is another story today saying that basically Keir Starmer is like a HR manager, is not fit to be a leader, and voices in the Labour Party saying that really he's not doing the good job, he needs to go, and also voices saying that Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary in charge of overseeing this bill, needs to go. Do you think she does, and do you think that would save Keir Starmer's skin?
No, the question of whether Yvette Cooper should go depends on who replaces her, and whether that person is more robust on immigration, and whether they have Keir Starmer's ear, and whether that person has, leverage over Keir Starmer. But looking at the Parliamentary Labour Party, they don't seem to have any interest in actually detaining and deporting migrants back to their country of origin. It's just against their DNA. Yeah. They're the Human Rights Party. They're post-national in their outlook, and really they don't have the best interests of the British people at heart.
Yeah, so Mike, we are a soft touch, basically, no getting away from it.
Well, the government is a soft touch, but the British people obviously have common sense in abundance.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. Always a joy to talk to you. That's Mike Jones, Executive Director of Migration Watch UK. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show, including, are you a good wife? Do you keep your husband happy? A Muslim charity is facing calls to lose its status after being accused of promoting the subordination of women. Girls, I need your opinion on this one. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Estelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This was thought to be a Ruskin. Ruskin was a very considerable polymath, an artist as well as many other things. So do you know why it was submitted for reappraisal? Was there a bit of a suspicion that it had been misidentified?
No, as you say, it's a service that Christie's offer. You can submit an artwork that you have, so anyone can submit it and request an estimate. And then the auction house's appraisal service allows you space as well to describe it and ask for a valuation. And Christie's sort of looked at it behind the sheet of dirty old glass and recognised a sort of Turner-esque mood and feel and ambience about it. And because there was this close relationship between Ruskin and Turner, which is fascinating, we'll come on to that shortly, but they sort of felt, well, the brushstrokes are very strong, the line is very economic, and the colour of the palette seems to be rather Turner-esque. And then they called in a specialist paper historian who confirmed that actually the paper that was used was one that Turner favoured himself. So yes, it was originally considered to be by Ruskin, but then we discovered something more magnificent. And don't forget, what's really interesting, now it's for sale. The lucky buyer is not just buying a picture. The lucky buyer is buying a life story, a relationship that actually changed the course of art history because of the relationship between Ruskin and Turner themselves.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. We're about to talk sex and booze. And are you a good wife? That's the first question we're asking. A serious face here, because I'm not. A Muslim charity is facing calls to lose its charitable status after being accused of promoting the subordination of women. The National Secular Society says the group's advice, telling wives to obey their husbands and seek permission for everything, undermine equality. Now, regulators are under pressure to investigate. So joining me now is the director at Oxford Islamic Information Centre, Dr. Sheikh Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining me today, Dr. Ramsey. Now, I'm taking the mickey slightly out of this because I am the world's worst wife. Seriously, you wouldn't want to marry me. You probably wouldn't want to marry me, but you know what I mean. But this does sound a little bit old-fashioned. I mean, women must look after the house, and your husband's opinions should come before, you know, everybody else's.
I believe this is totally wrong. Totally wrong. Woman has a right in Islam. Woman has an equal right to the man. Have, of course, there are male and female. That's a different thing. However, they can decide. Man cannot over control the woman. They have to have a respect, mutual respect between each other for the deciding to buy, for example, house or having a child, or she goes to the work. There is no problem. Woman goes to the work. We've got many women here from the I don't know, cleaner to the doctors to the member of the parliament and all it is some school of thought. Maybe it's gone very old, and they say this, but it's totally wrong, and they make Islam names bad. Woman.
Yeah, just going to say, I mean, obviously this is a charity based in the UK, but we do hear, you know, fairly horrific stories from all around the world, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, where women really are second-class citizens. And we do see some families over here, well, that is the case as well.
Absolutely. It is a tradition of the countries, not Islam.
Right,
so Islam respect the woman. Even if I bring some verses of the Holy Quran or from the Hadith, the narration of the Prophet, he said, woman has so much respect as a sister, as a wife, as a mother, and as a daughter. They have so much respect. They are equal. They can decide when they want to get married or don't get married. But of course, and they have to be some changes in this, especially in these countries, which they're saying that this is awful to say. Woman should stay and stick to the chain to the kitchen. If the woman wants to have a stay in the kitchen, no problem. But no one should force her. Or if they want to wear the hijab or not hijab or so, of course, it depends on how much you are practicing Muslim. It shows, but we should not force them what to wear, how to wear, and where they can go. Of course, it is a caring, both caring the same.
Okay.
But woman has more respect than a man.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that you respect women, and that is the message. Thank you very much. That's Dr. Sheikh Ramsey from the Oxford Islamic Information Centre. Thank you very much for joining me. OK, now I've still got Henry Bolton with me and JJ Anisiobe, and I've got some girl company as well. Lucy Beresford on this one. Because, Lucy, you understand the relationship thing, don't you? Because you are a therapist. You know what's going on here.
I'm a psychotherapist, and I am incredibly alarmed by this charity. I'm going to have to confess that I couldn't quite hear what that gentleman was saying.
So he was saying that basically the culture of some countries like Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, that's their culture. That's nothing to do with Islam. In Islam, women are equal. I'm not entirely sure I believed him, but we were running out of time to have that debate.
Well, the key thing is that this charity, MFF, they have a YouTube channel, and on there are videos that are promoting the idea that women ought not to go out of the house unless they get permission from their husbands, and that if they aren't actually cooking for their husbands and cleaning the home, which is a religious obligation, she is sinful. This charity also claims to have psychotherapists that you can go and see in complete confidence. And actually, when you go onto their website, as I did to prep for this, they don't talk about them as psychotherapists. They call them counsellors, and they say that they are trained and they have qualifications, but it doesn't tell you what those qualifications are. Now, the problem in the UK is that psychotherapy is unregulated.
which is extremely worrying. I am accredited, which means I have done 5 years of training and I have annual accreditation in order to be able to continue practicing. But this charity is not offering that. And therefore, when it says that the strictures that they're putting out there are simply about husbands being caring, my concern is that that is gaslighting women.
So I would say that I would simply say that everything you said there may be correct, but any Abrahamic religion, it's the same. I'm a Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I speak to Christians all over the country and all over the world. We follow a religion in this country as Christians. That's what it's supposed to be known as. It's Jesus of Nazareth, not Jesus of Norwich. People will look at this and say, well, Islam's a foreign religion. We should be Christians. Christianity did not begin in the Western world, but we've still adopted it. I can go through the Bible and give you passages on where it says women should be getting up before dawn to prepare meals for the family. Women should be submissive to husbands. I'm not necessarily saying I agree with what the Bible says, or the Torah, or what the Arabic scriptures say, but it's across many religions, women are treated the same way.
As a Catholic, do you think, and the Bible does say that women should be submissive, do you agree with that?
No, I don't. But I tend to follow more the New Testament rather than the Old Testament, which was written by man rather than Jesus' words. But if this thing is saying, this website is saying a man's opinion should be most important to his wife, and I kind of agree with that. My opinion should be most important to my fiancée. My fiancée's opinion should be most important to mine.
It isn't even just about opinions. It basically says, if you want to go out of the house,
no, you say that,
have to ask your husband's permission.
Last night I went out and I did check with my missus first and said, I'm going out with the boys for about 4 or 5 hours, do you mind? That is something that is completely normal. When you put it in this context, you make it sound like, the woman has to ask permission. That's not right. But men up and down this country will say to their missus beforehand, do you mind if I go out tonight with the boys? Do you mind if I go to football with the lads instead of staying home?
That isn't asking for permission. When you're in a relationship, I think there is in a healthy relationship, there is an understanding that you do things together, but you are also separate individuals, and that you ought to be able to go out with the lads if you want to watch the rugby, or if you want to go to your photography class, or whatever it might be, and you check in. And I think there's a very different message that's being put out in these videos. So, as I say, I couldn't hear what the gentleman was saying. I've checked on the website. The website is very clear. It's very much about only living according to certain principles. And my concern about that is that it's also offering this psychotherapy. It's claiming to be a psychotherapy service, and it isn't really that.
We have the same in many Christian denominations, where the pastor or leader of the so-called church is giving advice to married couples, and we have it within Judaism also, with the rabbi being the person who is acting as the counsellor.
This is different.
I don't believe it is different.
I tell you why I say this is different, and actually Dr. Sheikh Ramsey is largely correct in saying that it's about the cultures in certain countries. I spent 2.5 years in southern Afghanistan. There, it is their culture that there is no permission. There is no, it is doctrine. This is how you behave. Otherwise, you are committing a sin if you're a woman. And women have been killed. I dealt with cases where women have been killed because...
But we're talking about the UK.
But, right.
We're talking about the UK.
I know we're talking about the UK, but Dr. Ramsey is right. What's happening is that is being transplanted into the UK. And we've got groups in the UK who are, if you like, pursuing that same sort of culture here. This isn't about what the Bible says or the Torah says or the Quran says. This is about, because most of us have moved on from the time this was written, this is about a group of people who are promoting a set of standards and values and rules that are out of place entirely in 21st century Britain.
I used to make a joke about the fact that the organisations that kept him as a psychotherapist were boarding schools and the Catholic Church. And what I was really addressing was the fact that there are these institutions that are living in a different world. They're not living in the 21st century. And my concern is that this is just one more example of that.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time on that one. Please do let me know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Now, the Muslim Family Foundation said the Muslim Family Foundation firmly rejects these baseless allegations which misrepresent our work. Our counselling services and courses are designed to support and strengthen families, fostering mutual respect, understanding and well-being. We remain committed to serving our community in line with ethical and professional standards and are open to any dialogue with the Charity Commission. So there you go, that's what they say. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. Dry January is over, thankfully. Are you getting back on the booze, though, this weekend, or staying on that health kick? All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's News Channel. We'll see you soon.
Hello, welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. While across the southeast there's plenty of sunshine today, elsewhere cloudy with some rain, but turning drier for most of us by midweek. Having a look at the bigger picture then, we have higher pressure out towards the east. We have this frontal system, very weak in nature, just bringing cloud and patchy rain. So after a cold, chilly start across the southeast, plenty of sunshine through the afternoon. Then we hold on to a lot of cloud across Scotland, northwest England, into Wales and the southwest of England, with some patchy light rain here, turning drier and brighter behind across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. In terms of temperatures though, around average for the time of year, with highs up to 8 or 9 degrees. So as we go through Sunday evening then, we see that cloud and rain across Scotland clearing its way eastwards. Then we'll see some clearing skies for a time, especially out towards the west. A similar picture for Northern Ireland as well. We hold on to clear skies to start the evening, temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees, but a lot of clouds still across much of England and Wales, especially out towards the west with some patchy rain. Further towards the southeast though, that's where we'll see clearest skies for the longest, so a touch of frost and some fog patches, but cloud will start moving through. Again, still with some patchy drizzle at times, but that should start to fade. Across northwestern Scotland though, turning increasingly windy here with spells of rain. But temperatures generally holding up for most of us, so a frost-free start, but across Sussex and Kent, that's where we'll see a touch of frost, perhaps some freezing fog patches to start Monday morning. Elsewhere across England and Wales, it is a largely dry picture, perhaps with some hazy sunshine across parts of Wales, a few showers at times in the south, but wet and windy conditions coming into Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland, where the rain could be particularly heavy, highs of up to 10 to 11 degrees.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Newsom. Now, there's plenty more coming up on today's show, which has been packed, but Nana Aguirre is on later at 3 o'clock, and she joins us now with all the details of what she's got coming up for you. Nana, take it away.
Well, coming up on the show, Aaron Bastani and Ben Habib will be my panel, so it's going to be a fiery discussion. We're asking, are Labour making it more attractive for people smugglers to get people to come to this country because they're planning to take away scientific testing to see if someone is actually a minor? Now, all the other EU countries enable it, so why on earth would they do that? Plus, we're going to be talking about why on earth Labour are pushing us closer to the EU at this time, when really, looking at it, we should be moving closer to the US. That's on the way.
That sounds a brilliant show. Don't want to go on. That's Nana, who is up at 3 o'clock. OK, well, good news, everybody. Dry January finally finished. Yay. If you did it. In any case, some of us might have lapsed slightly halfway through. But it's just in time for the rugby, isn't it? I mean, you know, it's a perfect storm, really, because if you've been clean for like 4.5 weeks, the last thing you want to do is go down the pub and sink about 6 pints in one go. You're not going to feel very good this morning. Anyway, Six Nations Championship has kicked off with France, Scotland and Ireland recording bonus point wins. But is the lure of that pint or two whilst watching not just the rugby, but anything? OK, boys, Dry January finishing, huge sporting event starting. Dangerous, Henry.
Not really, because I didn't take any notice of dry January. I mean, if I want to drink, if I want to drink, I'll have a drink whenever it is. I mean, I don't. If somebody tells me you can't because it's dry January, well.
That explains his behaviour this afternoon. It's a bottle of gin. JJ?
I don't go to the pub to watch rugby.
You're not allowed. Your wife won't let you.
My wife won't let me out the building. Yeah, fiance. No, I wouldn't go to watch rugby. Football, I would do. Rugby, that won't get me down there.
No, football.
Football's more likely to get me there.
Yeah.
So, in any case, the experts are now suggesting sober spring. Good luck with that one. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. All of that and much more to come. It's GB News. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question, and J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Pretty?
No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for $10,000.
Looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no, like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of It's not just making a mockery of women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
No, if your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You choose Tess.
You Tess. That's a bit kind of name. No, the truth is that's one of the problems, is you get a choice in the name you're going to choose. And of course, you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, on Tuesday, Parliament will hold a debate on the government's policy on children in care. Someone who will be watching that debate very closely is newly elected Labour MP Darren Paffy. In an exclusive interview with GB News presenter Gloria De Piero, he shares his incredible story as he was fostered as a baby and opens up about his personal experience and meeting his birth mum. Here's his story.
Darren Paffy, welcome. You were elected to represent Southampton Itchen in July. As it happened, you were only the third Darren ever to be elected to Parliament. Right. But that's not why I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to talk to you because you are one of a few MPs who have gone before throughout history, who grew up in foster care and were adopted. So let's start by asking you, how did you end up in care?
So I was 10 months when the social services in Northumberland
where I was born, stepped in. My birth dad had never been on the scene. My mum was a single mum, lived with a couple who were looking after her for a while. And then she got with a guy who, let's say, wasn't the ideal relationship. And in the end, both of us ended up in hospital, to my understanding. And that's when they stepped in and said, actually, that's not a safe place for this little baby to go back to. So when I was 10 months old, I was put in short-term foster care with the Paffy family. And the rest is history. And I never left, eventually was adopted.
So what was your experience of being fostered and then they went on to adopt you? How old were you when they adopted you?
So 10 when I got adopted. And the years between going to live with them and the adoption itself were, in many ways, perfectly normal. I was in a family home. I know lots of kids with care experience end up in more institutional homes and so on. But I have great memories of playing in the garden. My dad was a milkman at the time. He had the milk float out the front. I can remember pretending to drive and so on. So really happy childhood in loads and loads of ways. But in other ways, it was completely abnormal because I had a social worker who would come to our home, sit there, ask me lots of questions pretty regularly, as is the right thing to do. But that's when I started to think, well, my friends don't have this. I remember at primary school being pulled out of class because I had a medical appointment. I had to have full strict medicals every 6 months. My friends didn't. We had court cases and so on. As an 8-year-old, I remember not only having a social worker, but I was appointed a solicitor and a guardian ad litem for one of the court cases where they were making a decision on whether I went back to my birth family or stayed with the Paffys. So in those ways...
Did your birth family want you back?
Yeah, by that point, you know, I had lived there pretty much my entire life. So they were very much up for me staying with them. But, yeah, there was new legislation coming in around appeals and so on. So social services were asked to make decisions at various points and take it to court.
Wow. And this is all going on when you're 8?
Yeah, the 8 is when I have my sort of first memories of it. I mean, the great thing is my parents were always completely honest, and I never remember being sat down and told that I was fostered. I know of people who find out, you know, often when they're adolescents, the massive shock that they're adopted. I can't imagine anything more disruptive in life. So I'm really grateful that it was always very obvious to me, plus the fact that, you know, we had this, in a sense, other adult coming into our home every now and then and asking lots of questions as a social worker and making sure that I was OK. So that there was no way of me not knowing.
So you sort of, you never have that memory of that conversation saying, we didn't give birth to you.
No, exactly.
But you always sort of knew that you were being looked after.
That's right.
By a new mum and dad. Yeah. Your real mum and dad.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd always called them mum and dad. Apparently, when I was at preschool, I got quite cross and bolshy. So being a politician was probably the right career choice for me. When one of the play workers used my birth name, which was absolutely right, that's what my legal name was at the time, my surname. But I said, no, that's not me. I'm Darren Paffy. And I insisted on the surname when I was really little.
Really? So you weren't Darren Paffy when...
No, that's right.
Because you were being taken care of by the Paffy family. Have you reached out subsequently to your biological mum?
Yeah, initially, for the first couple of years that I was with the Paffys, obviously there was contact meetings that happened.
How was that?
I mean, I have no memory of them because they went on till I was about 2 years old.
Right, so tiny.
But the first time I remember meeting my birth mum was when I was around 10. So the decision around adoption had been made. I'd essentially been offered carrying on being fostered, a new system at the time called special guardianship, as it was, and full adoption. And, you know, with my mum and dad, I said, well, I'm not going anywhere, so let's go for full adoption. And as part of that process, Northumberland Social Services arranged a meeting between our family and my birth mum, who subsequently had remarried an incredible guy, and they'd had a beautiful little girl, my technically half-sister, but I've always just considered her my sister. So we had this meeting in a contact centre, you know, sort of office environment.
How old?
I was 10 at that point.
10, you have this meeting in a contact centre.
Yeah, and that was the first memory I have of meeting the woman who'd brought me into the world. Very strange moment. A lot, I think, for any 10-year-old to cope with. But again, everyone handled it incredibly well, really supported me. I think I had the inevitable emotional up and downs from that, but on the whole, that was the start of a
What were
big
the
relationship.
emotional ups and downs as a result of that?
I think any kid in care, and I say this recognising that every child's experience is different, and the outcomes are often quite different. But even for those of us who we can look back and say, actually, the outcomes have been really good, you still have those moments where you go, why am I going off for this medicals? Why am I having a court case? What could have been different at that point? And actually, is this a better life? Would that have been a better life? It's always the kind of, is the grass greener? And so you go through that. Now, my conclusion, obviously, is that the Paffys have been amazing. They stepped in at a moment where I needed that stability in life, and they gave me every opportunity that I've ever had. So there's no doubt in my mind at all that the path I've lived has been the right one. But you do go through that, and I think every child does.
What do you feel? You've talked a lot about how you feel about the Paffys, who brought you up. Lots of love and affection. How do you feel about your birth mum?
I can only imagine what it was like to be her and facing the things that she did. Still a teenager.
Wow. So she was a teenage
baby.
mum.
Yeah. And we all know kind of societal stigma around that, particularly in the late 70s. It was worse than it is now. She had more than enough people probably judging that situation. I don't judge. And actually, the things I've done since, becoming a counsellor, becoming responsible in Southampton City Council for children's services, working to ensure that actually where families need early help and support, that it is there, because that's what often makes a difference. So I certainly don't judge anyone. There are life circumstances that happen to people, and all we can do is make sure that support is there when it's needed.
Now, I know Mum and Dad Paffy are no longer with us, so they didn't
sadly.
See you being elected to Parliament. Is birth mum still with us?
Yes, yeah.
And do you still see her?
Yeah, I haven't seen her for a few years, but we do keep in touch by text and so on. And it was really lovely to get a text from her at the time saying, really incredibly proud of you. You know what you want and you go for it. So I keep in touch with her. My sister was bridesmaid at our wedding.
Nice.
My little girls were flower girls at her wedding. So,
Lovely.
yeah, we do have a relationship.
If there was one policy change, because you're now a lawmaker, one policy change that you could introduce, which would have made your life as someone who grew up being cared for by another family, others are in social care, children's home, etc. Is there a policy change that would have made your life and those who are currently in the system lives better?
The policy that I most benefited from, which has set the compass of my life up, is that there were foster carers there, and enough of them. That the pressure on that system now is much greater than it was then, and we frankly don't have enough foster carers across the country. Every council will tell you that they struggle to place children where they know that they're going to get a stable family home. That's why quite often they turn to independent fostering agencies outside of the council. Often that means outside of the area, so children are then pulled out of where they know, perhaps their schools, their support networks. So if there's one thing I would say we need to do, it's ensure that we, by whatever means, have more foster carers, be that through promotion, be that through better support or financial support. Foster care is the best place for those children to be, and ensure that those carers, who are brilliant people up and down this country, who open their homes and love and give children the safety and security and support they need at a crucial moment in life, we simply haven't got enough of them, and they need that support so that they can meet the needs of children. I would say as well, typical Dr. Kidd, you asked me one thing, I'm going to ask for two now. The other thing is that bridge to adulthood and independence for a lot of our care leavers. Again, I'm very lucky. I had my parents who, although they'd never been to university, but they supported me to be the first in our family to go. That was incredible sort of advice and support at the time. Not everyone between 16 and 18 has that. So actually, where there's a cliff edge at the minute in lots of ways around that support, we've got to do better at helping care leavers on that journey to independence.
It's been fascinating, a pleasure. Congratulations on your election.
Thank you.
And I hope your call is heeded to get more foster carers who can be as great as the Paffys were to you, Darren Paffy. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gloria.
What a lovely moving story. You can watch all Gloria's previous interviews on our YouTube channel. Now, I just want to say a huge thank you to my wonderful panel, former UKIP leader Henry Bolton and journalist JJ Anisiobi. Most importantly, though, a big thank you to you all for watching and for all your comments as well. Really, I'm so sorry we didn't have time to read some of them out, but some of your ones about dry January have been making me laugh very much. So, especially the one about waking up face down in the kitchen with a kebab next to you. Good luck with sober spring on that one. As I said, thank you very much. But for your company, I'm back tomorrow for breakfast with Eamon and Ellie, live from 6 o'clock. But don't go anywhere, though, because Nana is up next. And you have a real cracking day on GB News coming up for you. So gbnews.com/your say if you want to get involved in any of our conversations. As I said, all I can say is thank you very much for your company. It's been cracking. I'm back next weekend to keep you company as well. But up next, it's Nana. But first, it's obviously the most important part of the weekend, because it is the weekend. What is that weather like for you? See you soon. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.